8 years old, not reached puberty, not a manhood. If this one dies at that age of cancer, he'll go straight to the paradise. So in the perceived evil is always good. We're not embracing evil, by the way, don't get it wrong. And if someone does get cancer, a child or whatever, we empathise, we sympathise, we feel for the parents, the families, we help them, we go to the hospital, we make the dinners for them. We're distraught as much as the parents, right? But we know it's a testing ground. So many other things, I won't list them all, connects you to the Quran. About 1/3 of the Quran is stories about Dawah. The Quran doesn't detail the ibadah, which means worship, like fasting, praying, giving in charity. It doesn't detail that about the prophets. So it doesn't talk about how did the prophet Yusuf, or Joseph in English, how did he pray? Or the prophet Moses, how did he give in charity? What sort of quantities or amounts or frequency or whatever. It doesn't give these details. It doesn't detail their worship. But what it does do, and about 1/3 of the Quran does this, 1/3, it talks about the stories of Dawah, the stories of how they invited the folk to worship one God alone. So they did, Moses went to Pharaoh, he called to him in a gentle tone, very, very peacefully. He tried to invite him. Yusuf called his brothers, or Joseph called his brothers to the way of worshipping this one God. All the stories are there, and it's replete with stories of Dawah. So if we're going to actually do Dawah, we're going to connect ourselves to this huge portion of the Quran. Because all the fruit of all actions is worship. Sorry, I said it wrong. The fruit of all knowledge is action. The fruit of all knowledge is action. So if we start to do Dawah, we're connecting ourselves immediately. There's a direct connection with the Quran, the message of the Quran. Because that's what it's about. It's not just about, obviously, memorizing the Quran, learning it, becoming a hafiz, someone that's memorized the whole book, all very rewardable things. But there's no point being like the donkey carrying books. It's useless knowledge. You need to apply it and share it out there. So we covered that the rewards are huge, and this is the thing I wanted to sort of, going back to what I mentioned about the internet and things going viral. You might think it's and this is a trap of shaitan, of the devil. He'll always make you think that the Dawah work you're doing is small and nothing. Always he tries that trick. He'll make you think that little tweet you did, or that Facebook post, or that one leaflet you gave out, or that glass you picked up from the road, the broken bottle or whatever. He'll always make you believe that it's trivial, that it's small and rubbish, nothing, right? But this is wrong. The one tweet you do on the internet, or you share a YouTube video, or you send someone a WhatsApp message, you say inshallah, and somehow it leaks out, it gets shared on another group or whatever, your message is forwarded, someone reads the word inshallah, they become a Muslim, right? This is how my own story as well, how Brother Abdul Bari was saying he was not practicing Islam to a certain age for like 30 years of his life. Till the age of 22, I was not praying, not fasting. Well, I was keeping a very coarse version of fasting. And this is back in my university days. At the University of Essex, I actually picked up a timetable from the ISOC just to know when to break the fast, and I began practicing from reading a verse of the Quran on the timetable. So imagine the Dawah that person did. One tiny verse of the Quran put on a prayer timetable. Not their intention was to tell you when to pray. I read the verse, and I transformed from never praying 5 times a day to becoming a practicing Muslim. It was the main catalyst. There was other factors, there always is. It's never in a tunnel. But that was a key factor. So the point I'm trying to emphasize is, imagine the rewards as a sadaqah jariyah, the continuous charity that person's getting who made the timetable. Because for the last 10 years, I've been embedded in this work, in this charity, explaining Islam to non-Muslims, inviting them, clarifying misconceptions, doing other works of, for example, community works. Over the years, we've done Feed the Homeless drives, make sure the elderly folk have got warm clothing, bringing the hearts together, being peaceful and loving in the community, and bringing about not actions speak louder than words, but a practical kind of take on Islam and bringing the people together. So it's been like that. So it's a great form of worship. The rewards we've covered are huge, they're immense. It's that pyramid network chain. Imagine you passed away and you're still getting rewards written for yourself because of one thing you did. Literally, this is why I say I really encourage everyone here, come out for the street Dawah, because we're going to hand out books. I shipped over books from London a few days prior to coming to Hassan. We're going to give out these little books. We're going to engage with people. Look, most of Dawah is about rejection. Most people won't take your books. They're not interested. 90%. The prophets were rejected, they were mocked, they were scorned, they were ridiculed, right? So most of Dawah is about rejection. Get used to it, guys. If you're going to be a da'i, you're going to do Dawah, get used to rejection. It's all part and parcel of it. It's very, what's the word you say? It's very much a part of the package, right? And we don't focus on that. We know it's about rejection, but some people will listen, right? So, characteristics of the caller. This is very important. This is probably the most important part of the course in terms of Islamically. Sincerity is very important, being sincere to God. Remember what I said about the Tawheed, the monotheism. If you're not true to God, right, at the end of the day, if you're going to be like pretentious or see-through or whatever with non-Muslims in your call to Islam, you're going to exaggerate about statistics or lie about Islam or twist facts and figures and so on. They might not see through it, right? They might not see through it. Probably they will. People aren't stupid, right? But at the end of the day, God or Allah, He's the all-seeing, and He knows exactly what's going on. So if you're going to try to fool God, you won't be able to. So don't ever, be careful of your intentions and how you communicate things. Stick to what you know. We'll cover that. But remember the hadith, it talks about actions are judged by intentions, right? Actions are judged by intentions, right? So it's very important that you renew your intentions. And if there's anything, I'd argue, what is the hardest bit of dawah is, again, shaitan will really attack here. He tries to attack your intentions. You're doing this dawah for this thing or that thing or the other, for name or for fame or for money, for dunya, not for God alone. And he always tries this trick. He always tries to make you do. You're doing the dawah for this reason and maybe that reason as well. And you've got to do it purely for God alone. So you've got to purify your intention. And remember, it's not a game. It's not about just getting shahadas. When we say shahadas, we mean that's someone who proclaims the testimony of faith and becomes a Muslim. So we're not here to clock off, I've converted 10 non-Muslims to Islam. I'm a really good da'i, I'm really good at dawah, right? I'm a really good Muslim. It doesn't work like that. It's not a game. It's not about clocking numbers. It's never been about numbers. We're not here as Muslims, we don't have this we're not saying the whole world's going to become Muslim, right? There's always going to be Christians, there'll be atheists, there'll be whoever the other guys are out there, the other folk are out there, right? So it's something that's owed to you, it's something that you owe, not something that's owed to you. So you owe it to God, it's not your right in that sense, right? And we must be sincere and genuine when talking to non-Muslims. What comes from the heart goes to the heart. This is very important. As I mentioned, Allah is all-seeing. God, Allah is the all-seeing. He can see everything that's going on and He can hear everything. So never entertain any insincerity, never try to bring it into your dawah. Always purify your intentions. Okay, I'm doing this work to please God alone. It's for God alone, because the other things can creep in. And we have to remember that love of the dunya is the root cause. So the dunya means the world, the worldly life, the universe, if you like. Loving something in the universe above God is the root cause of all evil. That's what we have to keep that balance in Islam. We always know we can like things. No one's denying that. You might like sports activities or hobbies or something, social things or whatever, technology, whatever. You can enjoy these things, families, people, whatever. You enjoy things, but we don't push it to above the love of Allah. We keep that completely paramount at the top, basically. So, as I mentioned, stick to what you know. Dawah is not based on ignorance, emotions, or unknowns. Don't talk about things that you're not clear about. You don't need vast amounts of knowledge, just knowledge on what you convey. So be clear about what you're sharing. Convey from me, even if it's one ayah. And this is what I would say everyone in the room here, probably Paul included as well, who's not a Muslim, but he's around Muslims and learning about Islam. He probably knows more about Islam than a lot of non-Muslims. And that's the reality of the state of affairs of the environment around us. A lot of non-Muslims have picked up a lot of, and this is where I feel really sorry for them, they've picked up a lot of baggage, you could say, or wrong instruction from the media. The media has done a lot of work, millions of pounds, a system is there. I'm not going to get into the politics and the reasons, these things go on. Politics is out there, whatever, right? And there's certain reasons for whatever goes on, and the media's gone down a certain path, and Islam and terrorism in Islam is becoming sticky, and it's built over the years that a certain narrative has been pumped out. Yes, there's ISIS, we know they're there, and we're against them, and we make this clear, right? We don't shy away from it. These guys are the antithesis of Islam. I'm the first one to say it. If they knew, they probably would want to kill me quickly, right? But this is the reality. They're an enemy of Islam. They do suicide bombing. They take innocent lives. They actually kill more Muslims than non-Muslims. Not that that's relevant, but I'm saying that the hypocrisy is crazy. They are the crazies, basically. These guys. They're the nonsense antithesis of Islam. They're very dangerous. And as a community, the non-Muslims and the Muslims, Christians, atheists, whoever we are, we have to come together to eradicate this cancer, because it's embedded. It's within Islam. It's within us guys, and they look like us, they act like us, they claim to be pious Muslims, they read the Quran, they give in charity, their women wear modest clothing, whatever, but they come and do these acts which are against Islam. So convey from me, even if it's one ayat. An ayat means one verse in the Quran. So as I mentioned, everyone here has got loads of knowledge of Islam. It's just a matter of sharing it with non-Muslims and saying, look, the Muslims believe in this, or they do that or the other, right? You don't have to go to a special place and learn such and such high amounts. Because a lot of people say this to me when I do this course. They say, look, I want to give dawah, I'm interested, but I haven't got enough knowledge. I have to get to a level, then I can come out and start giving the teaching of the dawah. This isn't true. Look, convey from me, even with one ayat, you've got knowledge about certain things. You know about Hajj, and you know about Islamic rights here or there. You know about the charity systems and the legal systems and inheritance. All the knowledge you've got, even the little kids. Like the little youth guy here answered the one about 99 names. All this sort of stuff. The knowledge is there, but it needs to be conveyed to the non-Muslims. That's what's missing, actually, the conveying over. So, being kind and gentle. So these are all characteristics of the da'i, or the caller. When I say da'i, it means the person giving dawah, the caller, the inviter. So you've got to be kind, you've got to be gentle. You know, there's a hadith or narration that talks about rifq. A rifq is an Arabic word. It simply means gentleness. You know, like softness or gentleness. And if it's put in any matter, it only but beautifies it. If it's removed, it only but pollutes it. Right? So always add this gentleness to whatever you do. In your speech, your actions, whatever you do, how you carry yourself, how you communicate with people, any matter that you're doing in your life. If you don't add the rifq, it's going to pollute the matter. It's going to make it dirty, right? You're going to remove the barakah or the blessings from it, right? So don't be harsh. You know, if you're going to be rude to people and bad-mannered and harsh and angry with the people and stuff like that, they'll never accept your call or your invitation. They'll naturally gravitate away from you. What is there to be attracted to? They want to be attracted to a peace-loving person, a happy folk, a good person who's serene and worshipping one God and getting the rewards. They want to see the goodness. They don't want to see harshness. Soft-hearted, again, like all the prophets were, they were very welcoming. They were very soft-hearted. They would lend their ear to anyone. An oppressed folk, an orphan, the weak, the needy, all these sort of people, they lent their ear to them. They were first and foremost very soft-hearted, not discriminating. Like a homeless man might come to you, he might have had a bath or something. There's no need to be frowning and turning him away. Give everyone a fair trial, a fair run of the dawah. Good manners and polite tongue, that's very important, you know, to be using good speech. Our Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and all the prophets, they never used foul language. They never swore, used rude language. Never in any of the documentation or history or understanding did they ever go down that path of being rude in their speech. And they always adopted good manners. Give someone a chair, if someone's elderly, pull him up a seat, give him a drink of water, it's a hot day, help him out, do things, smiles, handshake, all this comes under body language. You know, if you're going to meet someone, you want to be helping them, smiling them, maybe get their name, be friendly. This is what dawah is really about, making friends with people. That's how I've seen it. In the last 10 years when I've done dawah, in whatever form it's come in, an exhibition or street dawah or an event or a dinner, it's just about befriending that stranger, making them your friend. Because you know, loneliness, I'm going to cover it in tomorrow's course, loneliness is quite an ingrained problem in the UK. There's a lot of lonely people in this country, lots and lots, and it's not just the guy who's in his 60s who lost his wife a couple of years back and he's on his own. That's how it used to be. But now, a lot of the young folk, 16 to 24, are the most loneliest, and there's millions of them. I'll cover it more in tomorrow's course, but it's quite eye-opening, right? So, no ego or pride, you know, looking down on others, having this haughtiness, I'm right, I'm the Muslim, I'm superior, you're a nothing, you're a nobody, you're going to the hellfire. You know, these kind of black and white thinking, it can be dangerous, right? And so bring all of this into your dawah where you can, yeah, wherever you can, bring it in. It's very powerful and it will always work, you know. So don't engage in useless, insincere arguments with people in your conversations. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, I guarantee a house in paradise for the one who gives up insincere, useless arguments, even if he's in the right. So sometimes just let it go. There might be a long, drawn-out debate or something, and you're trying to battle it and whatever. You just say, I don't know. Let that one go, whatever. Be humble. Just that action alone, somebody might observe that, a non-Muslim, and they're more impressed with the honesty, the humility, and the truthfulness than the other pizzazz that's going on. You know, the glitz and the glamour, trying to be very complex in your speech and having a complicated argument or whatever. And you let that go, and you win them over from another angle that you don't expect. Engage with people on their level. So Ali was one of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, said, talk to people with speech that they can understand. Do you want Allah and His Messenger to be disbelieved? So have an awareness and understanding of the society around us. Okay, this is very important. So you go to a certain area, certain parts might be a bit more conservative, certain areas might be people are more friendly, different nuances and stuff like that, different characteristics of people. Try to have an understanding of where you're going, what you're doing, and it will help in your dawah. It's quite a clear, obvious point, that one. So don't go to extremes. I touched upon ISIS and extremes, but these are the extremes. Like we're focusing on conveying the compassionate and peaceful message of Islam to the wider society and inviting people to the oneness of Allah and the prophethood of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. That's our call, right? So we're against all this extremism that can come in many, many different forms. And it comes in 101 different forms, extremism, right? You could have hate speech against individuals, yeah? So we reject and refrain from all of this, both in our actions and in our speech. Sometimes, as Muslims, we do get a bit polarized and we're a little bit, due to lack of knowledge or whatever reasons, desires or whatever the reasons, we can be a little bit black and white in our perceptions and thinkings. Like, I'll tell you a story about, this happened in Ireland. I was at an exhibition and I met a young guy, he's from Bosnia, really friendly, shook my hand. I think he was Bosnia, one of the Balkan areas. He met me, he shook my hand, he got friendly, we had a drink together, he was chatting away, really nice guy, non-Muslim guy, and blah, 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 we're talking, and he sort of mentioned that at one point he brought it up in the conversation that he's a homosexual, right? Now, I didn't think anything of it, I was just engaging with him on a fair level. I'm just saying some Muslims' approach might be, okay, homosexuals, you can't even shake their hand, and they go to these other extremes, right? They're dirty people or whatever, right? And they go, we have that kind of extreme views on some people. But this particular individual, he went back to his home country, Balkans, somewhere in Bosnia, and he actually ended up donating money to IERA, our charity. A non-Muslim saw the goodness of our work, that we're sharing the compassionate message of Islam, sharing the truth of Islam with others, removing barriers, misconceptions, hatred, polarization and suspicion, and he saw the goodness and he donated. Some Muslims would be like, he's homosexual, I won't even touch this guy, he's got germs, he's nasty, and then all this extremism. Keep away from it, guys. You saw the picture earlier of the guy with the tattoos and stuff like that. Anyone can be a person that will be inclined towards wanting to accept Islam at any time. So beware of extremism in religion, because the only thing that destroyed those before you was extremism in religion. It comes in a narration in Islam. Very important. Whatever it is, you're going too much to the left, too much to the right. We're Muslims and we remain on a middle path. It's called the balanced. We're supposed to be on the straight path. Yeah, a balanced way of living, right? So we'll be very careful about extremism. It can creep in. So what are some of the most difficult questions you've been asked about Islam in your experience, or what questions do you think you might be asked about Islam that are difficult? What do you think, Brother Hassan? Any tricky question, or some of the most, think of some of the recent media stuff that will give you a clue to help you.
Not sure what to say.
Like a difficult question that somebody might ask you.
Question generally, obviously, people are opposing the believe in God, that's what they oppose. They don't want to be subjected to higher power. That's the question people have. And
I have been asked
so
many times. They said, well, you believe in Allah, we believe in God. I said, Allah is an Arabic name. Allah, it means God.
Yes.
In a sense, Allah is in Quran. You go to France, they've got name. Go German, they got different name. Go any country, they've got different name. Allah is in Arabic. So Allah. Allah, it means God.
Yeah.
God is the one who to be worshipped.
Yeah, absolutely. So the name God or Allah specifically, that causes friction.
Which has no, God. We can use plural, but Allah you cannot.
You can't have plural. Yeah. So there is that factor that people think. See, some people have got a misconception of Allah. They think Allah is that cruel God, the one that stops us doing everything. Right? You can't eat pork. You can't have alcohol, you can't go to a nightclub, you can't do X, Y, Z, you can't have fun and parties, and he's a God that is like how would you say, one that wants to take away all the fun of the people, right? And they have these bad conceptions. Anything else? Yusuf? Which guy's Yusuf? Yusuf, what do you think would be a difficult question for somebody to ask a Muslim, something tricky? or something like, not rude, but you know, something a bit like controversial. I don't know if you know what that word means, but it means like very sticky sort of question. Like,
why would you fast if you could stay up all night eating?
wow, that's a good way of putting it, isn't it?
That's a nice
And
one.
like stop, and you could get rich and stop all Muslim stuff and no more praying.
You could have, well, so the prayers waste time, and you could be earning money in those 5 minutes. You could be earning more money, couldn't you? Right? Exactly. Good one, Yusuf. Right? Yeah. Anything else? Think of some of the Islamophobes and people like that. So some of the Islamophobes.
Well, I always remember one.
Yeah.
She was an old boy. I mean, I answered it, but she didn't really care. She brought up a sort of a good question. She said, "Why do Muslims all do these terrorists?" But I said, "Well, She said, "No, I'm not talking," because I said, "Well, in the past," she said, "I don't care about the past. I'm talking about right now. Everywhere you go around the world, Muslims are doing bad stuff." And I said, "Well, but no, there's nothing about Christians. You don't see Christians bombing. You don't see Hindus do it." And I said, "Well, you do, but the media."
Yeah,
well, I
yeah,
did,
yeah.
but she just cared about. You couldn't.
Yes.
She just cared
So
about
she
what
just-
they're doing
she
today.
magnified on that part.
You know,
isn't it?
today,
Yeah.
why are Muslims?
Yeah, why is Islam a
because
religion of
Muslims
terror?
are backwards now.
Yeah.
It's not Islam. I'm a Muslim.
Yes.
I'm a different between Islam. So Islam is a religion to follow. Me, I'm a person,
Yes.
Muslim. I can make mistake, but
Yeah.
Islam do not.
Of course. The religion is perfect.
If you
the
follow
Muslims
if you follow Islam, you will never harm.
are. True.
But then she'll say, well, they're doing it in the name of religion.
Yeah, but the reality.
No, but I'm just
I
saying
know,
what she
I know,
said.
but
No,
from my experience, that sort of person is an exception to the rule. Most of the people I speak to, like out there on the streets, wherever they are, the bulk majority of the British folk, they're not stupid people. They're good, honest, upright people, right? And they can see through the media narrative, and they know, look, 1.6 billion Muslims in the world. If our religion taught to kill the next non-Muslim as quickly as you can, or deviously as you can, or plan and plot, then there would be bombs going off all over the sectors, right? All over the planet, everywhere. But 1.6 billion, you've got the ISIS crazies that are like 0.000. The bad apples exist in all walks of life. They're amongst atheists as well, Christians, Hindus. There's the BJP party of the Hindus. You've got the atheist man in America that murdered the 3 Muslim people. He shot them. So the extremes are there. The guy that in New Zealand, you know.
Can you blame Christianity? You know, Hitler killed over 100 million people. Can you blame Christianity? Of course not.
No, of course not, because he wasn't following the right way.
Yeah, it's a political.
Yeah,
If I do something wrong, blame me, not Islam.
Yeah.
Because Islam has condemned.
Yes, that's
So
it.
if you follow Islam, you will never harm anyone.
Definitely. So these are the sort of things that will come up. People will ask you very difficult questions occasionally. They might ask you, your prophet married a 9-year-old, yeah? Women, you have to cover their hair. Why doesn't the man cover? Right? Why doesn't he cover his beauty, right? Many things like inheritance laws. Why do women in Islam inherit less than men? They'll try to posit and say, look, Western secular democracy allows inheritance laws, the men and the women get an equal split. When the parents pass away, the house is up for inheritance, there's an equal split. But in Islam, women get 1/2 the amount of the man. All these sort of common things that come up, yeah? The thing about homosexuality is common as well. You cannot, you don't accept it in Islam, yeah? These are all many things that come up, and there'll be many difficult questions you could be asked in Dawah. Many difficult questions. You get asked question number 1 about the age of Aisha. The Prophet married a 9-year-old is what they try to say, right? Or someone leaves your religion, which is apostating, right? If someone leaves Islam, you have to kill them. They have to be executed. That's another common one that comes up. Comes up all the time.
Kill anyone. I'm a
Sure.
Muslim. If
Yes.
I convert to any religion, you cannot kill me.
No.
Yes, there's only one
Yeah.
you can kill. If I go and convey the message against Islam, then yes.
Yeah, look, just to clarify, the thing about the apostate, so we're all clear, right? Because I'm not answering these as I go along. The apostate is not black and white like some Islamophobes try to make it very black and white. They're like, okay, if someone leaves Islam, you have to kill them. If someone leaves Christianity and becomes a Sikh, we embrace it. We're like, God is love, God is good, you go and do what you want. It doesn't work like that. In Islam, the one who becomes apostate, there's a system that has to be there. An Islamic state needs to be there. Not this Islamic state of the ISIS, Islamic state of governance, processes, procedures, systems, judges, we call them qadis, rulers, rulership. An organized state would judge the individual who's become an apostate, and if he's agitating the state, he's causing harm to the communities in the state, then he may be executed. It's not a black and white rule. There's a whole process there. You don't just pick up a sword and kill this guy. But like Brother Subha saying, we don't kill anyone in Islam. It says in the Quran, if you kill one person, it's as if you killed all of humanity. That's the gravity of the sin. Yeah. So this killing thing is completely not, although it's going on and the media zoomed right into it. They've zoomed into ISIS and bombs and bombings in Iraq, this marketplace, this thing and that, and they've made it out that Islam is about killing. It's completely, we're far away from, it's about preservation of life and honour and respect of others. That's how Islam survived for so many years. In Islamic Spain, for 800 years, there was harmony between Jews, Muslims and Christians. They say the Jewish religion flourished to the highest level under some Islamic governance, because there was the ability to practice their religion freely. Other people stopped them and stuff like that, right? So all the history accounts for it. But the point I'm trying to make on these slides, brothers and sisters, is that basically you're going to be asked all these difficult questions and you'll just be firefighting. Does that make sense? Firefighting means that you answer question number 1. Okay, we can't drink alcohol because of X, Y, Z. Then someone asks something more controversial, more heated sort of thing. They say, okay, the inheritance laws, they're unfair. Western secular democracy has got much more fair laws. The inheritance is split equally. This is unfair. You try to answer that one, and number 2, and number 3, and number 4, and you'll go around this endless loop of questions. You'll be firefighting. You'll be on the back foot. You won't really call to Allah. Yeah, remember we said in the beginning, it's calling to the Tawheed. You won't really be doing that because you'll be like fighting off these questions, literally fighting off. And when you get to question number 1000, you'll go. The questioner will go back to number 1, and you've forgotten what's been going on. Basically, you get overwhelmed and you get loads of difficult questions. So what we're going to explain in this course is a technique. It's a special method that sidesteps or circumvents all these difficult questions. So if you're out there, and like Brother Yahya, you said you feel a bit nervous when you get crowded around and someone's saying this comment and this question, this thing gives you a clever technique, and we're going to learn the technique in this course. So these are some of the problems. You get an endless cycling of questions, very difficult questions. You don't satisfy the questioner, opens the door to argumentation, gives a false notion of Islam. In reality, Islam is submission. So what we're trying to do in all of our dawah and this whole dawah training and stuff like that, we're trying to basically get a perspective change. So imagine the non-Muslims are wearing the red lenses, red glasses, and the Muslims are wearing the clear ones. So everywhere where the non-Muslim looks around at the Cornwall Mosque, they see red, all the white here, it all looks red, and we're seeing the true colours like they are. So what we want to do in our dawah is a swap of the glasses. Effectively, we want to swap the perspective so they can see our worldview. They can see through the lenses of Tawheed, if you like, to see, okay, so you Muslims are God-focused, God-centric, there's one powerful creator. It all goes back to that being, right? And they get that vision and focus and understanding, right? And we'd like to see what their worldview is like. Okay, so they believe in X, Y, Z. A Hindu, for example, believes in many gods. We're trying to swap the worldviews, get an understanding from both ends of the spectrum. So now we're going to cover, the approach we'll cover in the training, or the Dawah training, is known as, is called the GoRap approach. So GoRap is an acronym, which we'll go through. I can display on the board what it stands for. It's on the big slide deck. So basically, G stands for God's existence, O is oneness, R is revelation, or the Quran, specifically the Quran. A, you can call it the IERA, or you can just call it and. It's another one we fitted in there to make it an acronym. And P is prophethood. So we're going to go through this whole sort of methodology of explaining. So the GoRap is an acronym that you just plant in your mind when you're giving dawah. So it helps you steer the conversation. So first you talk about God, then is oneness, because oneness is critical in Islam, right? We spoke about the Tawheed. Then the revelation, which is the Quran, the miraculous book, what we believe is a miracle. A, I mentioned, when I said akhirah, I mean the afterlife, right? You can make that the afterlife. And P is prophethood, right? Afterlife is quite important. It's good to bring heaven and hell in your dawah is pretty critical. It's pretty important, right? To bring heaven and hell is very important, because all the prophets, they mentioned the good news, which is the paradise, and they mentioned the hellfire, a warning, the punishment of the hellfire. So wherever in your dawah you get an opportunity to speak about heaven and hell, bring it in there. Don't shy away from it. Don't think, oh, it's not going to be relevant, they're not going to be interested. I always try to bring it in where I can. So the GoRap method, specific dawah technique, puts foundations of Tawheed first, one answer to most questions, reasoned and logical, avoids difficult issues, cuts potential for argument. It's a good little system. It's simply an acronym, and it will stop your mind going blank. Because sometimes that happens. You know, when you're talking to someone, especially a stranger, you don't quite catch their name, you don't know what their interests are, you forget this or that, and sometimes your mind goes blank. You're like, I was talking really deep about Islamic finance, thinking that zakah is 2.5%, and then you've lost your trail of thought and you're lost in the details, and you're like, subhanAllah, I haven't even called into the oneness of Allah. He's getting muddied this way and that way, getting lost. I want to bring it back to the Tawheed. So that's what the Go Wrap does, right? And all of this is in your notes, guys. I'm going to share the notes with Brother Hassan. So if anyone's lost, because there's a lot of slides here, I appreciate that. So if you've lost any of the detail here, don't panic. You can look at the notes, get the refresher, right? So the way the call works about the Go Wrap, yeah, specifically, the logic behind it is in this chain of logic here. Allah is maximally perfect and all-knowing. So this God is of maximum perfection. He has no flaws, no deficiencies, no weaknesses. He has no needs, right? As we said, he created without a teacher, no prior example. He has no weaknesses. He's the ultimate maximum perfection, and he's all-knowing as well. That's one of his names, the all-knowing, right? As amongst the other names. So therefore, in all our affairs, we should refer back to him. All the reference point is back to that creator being. Each and every time we go back to him in everything that we need. Whenever we need something, from something very trivial to like I need a bottle of water, right? You ask God first if you can. Ask him for it, because you know, a day may come when we may not have water in this country. We've got it all, everything's set now. Everything's like what's the word you say? You know, we think everything's in an order. But look at the hurricane in the Bahamas, isn't it? Right? It's like when you saw the pictures, or I don't know if you guys saw the pictures, but the houses are like little sticks now. This could happen here if God wills it. Why can't a hurricane come to England or whatever? I think there was floods as well, wasn't there, in Devon or somewhere some years back. I remember the houses got flooded. These things can happen, right? So we always ask the God alone for the things we need. So therefore, as human beings, we should submit to Allah. It's like a chain of logic. And Shaitan, or the devil, he's like the first pseudo-rationalist. Because what did he do when God commanded Satan to bow to Adam? That was the commandment. He commanded all the angels, including the devil, the Shaitan, sorry. He commanded them all to bow to Adam. But what was bow to Adam. But what was Shaitan's reply? What was the devil's reply? Does anyone know?
He said, you created me from fire. And
yes.
You created him from
exactly. Perfect. So, excellent, brother. Brilliant, right? Shaitan's reply was trying to rationalize Allah's command. He said, I'm made of smokeless fire, yeah, a better substance. He's made of clay. Therefore, I'm not going to worship. I'm not going to bow, sorry. I'm not going to bow to him. So Shaitan, was the first pseudo-rationalist. He tried to rationalize the command. He tried to use his logic and thinking to counter what God was saying.
It was challenging.
Challenging, yeah. It's kibr. It's known as pride in Arabic. In Arabic, you call it kibr. In English, it's called pride. You know, when you arrogance, haughtiness kicked in. And it's racism, if you like. I'm made of fire, he's made of clay, he's lower than me, right? Because Adam, we believe human beings are created from a different substance, right? Clay is referred to as an original formation source. And this was the thing that blocked him. And this is why we say he's the first pseudo-rationalist. He failed in his whole existence by rejecting God totally from arrogance. Complete rejection and arrogance, right? So the verse of the Quran says, for every nation we appointed rites to follow, you know, rituals and worship. So do not let them dispute with you, O Prophet, in this matter, but invite them to your Lord. You are truly upon a straight guidance. So it's very important that this is how the Go Wrap works. Once they connect to Allah, the non-Muslims, once they realise, okay, God's the most focal point, the most key thing, and then they'll come to this chain of logic, it brings them to worshipping and submitting to the God. Okay, opposite of what Shaitan did, basically. So